everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, if you're new, thanks for tuning in. As you can tell by today's video title, we're talking about our John Deere 450C crawler dozer. So it's a beautiful day here. This is late October, about 75 degrees or so. Very warm for this time of year. It's a great day to get the dozer out. This might be the last job of the year, and we need to fix one of our roads here before winter time. Typically we'll fix this road at least once a year. In the fall, it'll get us through the winter time. Of course, it depends on the kind of rains we have during the year. This summer was very dry, and we got a couple hard rains there right around September, and it caused some pretty big washouts and ruts. So we need to go ahead and get that fixed. But I thought this would make for a good time to go over how you actually operate this John Deere 450C. Now, if you're new to the channel, you should go back and watch some of the videos if you're interested. We have a number of videos featuring this John Deere bulldozer on our channel, showing everything from grading slopes, pulling trees, pushing some fill, some loose material. But I've never once talked about how to actually operate this thing. Now, I'm not going to try to teach you or tell you how to actually push dirt and how to actually cut slopes. I'm not an operator by trade, but I will walk you through this video and explain how to actually operate one of these. So maybe you're interested in going to look at one to purchase, or you have one and there's some questions you have about it. So this is a 1978 450C, and this was right around the middle of the 450C run. The model before this one was a 450B, and then the 450D replaced this. So this video will just apply to the C series. So this engine in here, it's built by John Deere. It's 65 net horsepower at the flywheel. It's a 4-cylinder, 219 cubic inch engine, which is turbocharged. This is a diesel. And this model has a 6-way blade on the front, and we'll get into that here in a bit. So I'll walk you through the starting procedures on this and just the lay of the land with the operational controls of this. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. We'll go through the starting procedure first. So right behind the operator's seat is the fuel tank. So that's where you put the diesel fuel right there. You should check the engine oil before starting this. I'll get to that here in a minute. It's down below. Make sure you have antifreeze. Make sure you have hydraulic fluid for the blade, transmission fluid, and everything like that, of course. So to start this thing, on the left hand side of the operator's seat, there's a knob right here. I'm going to turn that knob to the side, pick this lid up. This is where the batteries are. So this takes two 12-volt batteries. There's a master switch right here, so we want to turn that on. So that's the first thing that you'll want to do, is make sure that's on, or else you won't have your batteries, connected. The circuit won't be connected. So the main ignition switch is right here on the center console. You would want to turn that one click to the right, and the push button to start this is this red button right here. I'm not sure if they're all red like that, but you turn the key once, you push this in, but you want to make sure you give it a little bit of throttle first. Maybe, I think third of the way up is what the book recommends. So this crawler has a neutral safety latch, so you can see right here, this inside lever, I'm locked into neutral. For the starter button to engage the starter, you must be in neutral. And actually, this is so sensitive. Just say I'm in neutral here, there's a little bit of play like this. If this knob is not in the right place, that switch in there thinks it's out of neutral or in a gear, so it won't let you start. So typically what I do, I give it some throttle here, I turn the key, I use my right hand to push in here and use my left hand and kind of wiggle this around like this. And most times it starts just fine, but other times you need to sort of find that switch in there and it should start right up. Turn the key off here. So again, this center console has all your gauges on it. So this is the tachometer here. It shows the engine RPM as well as the safe operating range. You always want to be in the green if you are driving or pushing anything or really using this thing. You can idle down below 1500 just sitting still. I've never had this over 2500. That's the top of the green section. I think it's governed right around 2400, so when you push the throttle all the way up, it sort of maxes out there at 2400. Engine oil pressure gauge, engine water temperature gauge. Here's your amp meter and transmission oil temperature gauge. So this knob on the left is for the headlights, if the Dozer would have headlights. Push button, again, ignition switch and throttle. That takes care of the center console. We'll go to the transmission next. So say you're started and you're running in neutral and you want to move this thing. This has a John Deere partial power shift transmission in it. Essentially it's 8 forward speeds and 4 reverse speeds. So this Dozer has 4 gears. One's in the back here, and this outside lever, this is your gear selector. So 1's in the back, 2's right here, 3's here, and 4's all the way up. And then you have a range selector on the inside. This is the closest lever to you when you're seated. That's reverse, neutral, high, and low. So you must be stopped with the clutch pedal pushed in to change gears. But because it's a partial power shift, you can actually shift on the go using the range selector here. So once you're out of neutral, you can shift into reverse, up into high or low. So that takes care of that. So this is a Dozer that was made prior to a decel pedal, which most modern Dozers have. I forget which 450 series came out with a decel pedal, but it was after this one. So the pedal here on the left side, that is the main engine clutch. So you push that in, this engages the engine to the transmission. The pedal on the right side is a brake, which applies the brake to both tracks. So that's your parking brake, or if you want to stop on a hill when you go into neutral. And there's even a latch down there. Once you get this thing pushed in, you want to latch that. And the important note is that neutral on the range selector is not park. So if you're in neutral here and you're locked in, the Dozer will still roll if you're on a hill. So you want to have that parking brake pushed all the way in with that latch engaged, and always lower your blade back to the ground just for safety. So next we'll talk about steering. So this has 2 steering levers, which are positioned right in front of the operator. These are a combination clutch and brake, and these are self-adjusting, and these clutches run in a wet housing, so they call them a wet clutch. Basically they turn in oil. So if you want to steer to the right, left, when you're going straight, you gently pull back. That will engage the clutch, which will cut power to the track. If you want to make more of a sharp turn, just pull back a bit more. You start to apply that brake on the left side. And the same thing goes for the right. If you want to steer to the right, you gently pull back the right one. And if you want to turn really hard and make a 90-degree turn, you just pull back more. Now the main thing with these, you do not want to put excessive force on these when you pull these back. You can throw the clutches out of adjustment, so you definitely don't want to do that. So just nice and easy, just enough until you start to turn. So that takes care of that. On the right side of the operator's seat, you'll notice this T handle here. This is the control lever for the blade on this dozer. Now, because this has a 6-way blade, this entire hydraulic unit on the right side of the operator's seat, it may be a bit different if you just have a 450C with a manual angle and only hydraulic up and down. So again, this lever controls all functions of your blade. So if you want to pick the blade up, you pull this back, that lifts the blade. If you want to lower the blade, you push this forward. If you want to angle the blade to the right, you twist this lever to the right. And if you want to go to the left, you twist back to the left. If you want to tilt the blade left or right, you just rock this lever outward or inward. So you just think of it like this T-bar right here is the blade. That blade will do whatever you do to the lever. So again, it's relatively simple. Tilt, angle, and this even has a float feature. If you push down all the way like that, there's a detent, and that locks the hydraulics out basically, so fluid can flow back from the cylinders freely without being under pressure, and that just lowers the blade to the ground and lets gravity hold it there. So that's handy if you're backtracking, especially. Certain times you have to do that. That just allows for, or holds back pressure or down pressure off the blade, and just pull it back out like that. So again, a 6-way blade. If your dozer does not have the 6-way blade, this might look different. So this is the hydraulic tank right here to the right. Here's your fill. And again, this is just a big valve assembly in here. And John Deere found a way to make one lever do 6 functions, which is very impressive, especially for its time. You can see it's just a big spool valve in there. This lever right here on the right side, that is for the winch. And I've never actually ran the winch on this dozer, but you pull this back to you or you push it forward, and that controls the directions on that winch. Now I know this winch needs some work before we would try to use it. I think the cable would need to be replaced. Looks pretty rusty and sort of bound up. I think that about covers this. This dozer does not have a fuel level gauge, surprisingly, for the time when they built this. There's a dipstick though under this cap, so that's how you check the fuel level. And yeah, this has the ROPS on it, so the canopy with the optional forestry ROPS on the front end, and the exhaust pipe runs up the inside here, so if a tree falls across, it would roll down off the front. And the back here has a wire mesh screen in it, which is nice, so trees don't come through and poke you. This thing is loud. The exhaust exits right here above your head, so I typically wear ear protection when I'm driving this thing. So I think that about wraps it up. I'll take you guys along. I'll put the GoPro here on the dozer somewhere. We'll get some footage. This ground, or this road right now, looks pretty hard and dry. We'll do what we can. I don't want to take too much out. I want to start on the outside edge and kind of peel some high spots off, windrow it to the inside. You'll see there's a rut all the way up. We'll get that filled in. I think there's some loose dirt down here which has washed down. We'll push that back up. We'll get it tracked in, and that should get us through for the winter time. So again, this is a 1978 450C John Deere dozer, partial power shift transmission, and 4-cylinder diesel engine, turbocharged. Appreciate you watching. right, that ground's pretty hard. So I'm trying to find the high spots out here if there's any, and kick all that loose stuff into the inside. It's not too bad down here. And just a personal preference thing, I like to keep my left hand on the steering levers and my right hand stays on the blade control at all times. I shift with my left hand, steer with my left hand. Again, just a personal preference. Well, it's not perfect, but it should work. I think a grader would be the correct piece of equipment for a job like this, but we don't have one of those, and that dozer is the only thing we have that could really cut this road in if we needed to. So turned out pretty well though. Got some run time on the 450, which is always good. That thing's fun to operate. I'm over 6 feet tall myself, and when I'm seated in that seat, I can't quite see the bottom two corners of the blade. I know on the E series, which was 2 series after the C, they raised the whole operator's platform and seat about 6 inches or so, and that gave the operator much better visibility to the blade for grading. So overall, the road I think worked in fairly nice. Got all those ruts filled in, everything's tracked in, and that should get us through the winter time. So I think that about wraps this up. These dozers, the C series, they have a solenoid for the fuel pump. So to shut one of these down, you want to idle it back, let that turbocharger cool down, pull that throttle lever all the way back, and just turn the key. And then make sure you turn the master switch off and just relieve all the hydraulic pressure from the cylinders. So I know one thing, this thing is filthy dirty. It could use a bath, and that might be next week's project, and we'll get that thing put away for the winter time. As always, thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again.